Hey, I'm FlameTP, and welcome to Flames Reviews, where today we'll be going over Black Myth Wukong on the PlayStation 5, also available on Steam. Today I will be going over the graphics, sound, performance, gameplay, and the story for Black Myth Wukong. So let's start with the graphics. Black Myth Wukong is heavily inspired by Chinese culture, and it looks nothing less than breathtaking. Some of the set pieces are visually astounding. The art design in this game is very good. However, where I do find issues with the graphics come down to the little details. Smoke, water, dust, and fire all look pretty lackluster and stand out around the visually beautiful world. It's hard not to notice when the world looks like a next-gen game, but the fire effects look like something out of a PlayStation 2 game. The cutscenes in the game are great. The cutscenes you get after completing a chapter are so cool. I love the Chinese animation. It's really well done. I loved unlocking new cutscenes after the completion of each chapter. Overall, I think the graphics for the game are well done. It would be a huge disservice as well not to talk about the enemy design in this game. There is so much detail put into the look of each enemy that I got excited each time I got to a new boss or enemy type I've never seen before. If you're wondering if the game holds up in the graphics section, I can tell you for certain that it does. Let's get into the sound of the game. The sound of Black Myth Wukong is also very good. The Chinese music is epic and matches the setting of the game greatly. The sounds are super immersive, and I can't recall running into anything that made me annoyed when it came to the music or ambiance coming from the game. I do have one issue when it comes to the sound, however. The English voice acting is not very good. The Chinese voice acting, on the other hand, in my opinion, is a lot better, and it fits the characters you encounter much better than the English voices did.
Now it's grander in scope. All those monks consumed by the fire turned to wandering ghosts roaming in Black Wind Mountain. It was I who granted them eternal repose.
好得很，好得很。他还记得你的味道。那猴活着的时候，只知四处求人，哭哭啼啼；死了还祸及子孙，引得你们一个个送上门来。
Although the English voice acting isn't terrible, it does stand out. Overall, though, I do enjoy the sound of the game. The music and ambiance make up for the English voice acting. However, if it does bother you, I would highly recommend playing the game with the Chinese voices instead. Let's discuss the story of Black Myth Wukong. The story of Black Myth Wukong starts strong. Without getting too much into spoilers, you play as a monkey warrior on the hunt for 6 relics to awaken Wukong. Along the path, you will run into many enemies and a few allies to help you along your journey. There are some side quests that you can find along your journey that adds a little more towards the world of Wukong.
手足相残之事，我万不肯做。你帮我除去同僚，我也是时候该走了。
I did find that the pacing of the story doesn't pick up again until towards the middle of the game. The shining grace of the story are the side characters. They are so energetic and interesting that it's hard not to enjoy spending the time you have with them.
我在哪里都没个亲戚。哪里来的女菩萨？快下来说话！这就走了？休息。
I did not find the story as interesting as I had hoped, but for games like this, I don't think the story is that important, as the game feels more like a boss rush rushing you towards the next boss over building up a great story. I did find myself satisfied enough with the plot to keep pushing forward. For those who do enjoy the story, well, I have good news for you. You're able to learn a lot more lore regarding the enemies you face and allies you meet along the way by looking into your journal, as everyone has some sort of background about them that you can learn. The story is okay at best. Let's talk about the performance. First, before we get into performance, let's just quickly talk about the options this game has. We are given 3. First is the performance mode. The idea for this is that the game will target 60 FPS at the cost of resolution. Second is the graphics setting. This will ensure that the game runs in the highest resolution possible. However, the trade-off is that the FPS is locked at 30. And lastly, we have the balance. This aims to keep the FPS at 60, however, it also aims to keep the resolution as high as it can when needed. For this playthrough, I went with the balanced option, as it gives you the best of both worlds. Now, the performance of the game is not very good. It starts off fine with little interruptions, however this quickly changes the more you progress in the game. The game has crashed for me a total of 3 times, and I've fallen through the map once. The biggest issue this game has either comes with the FPS drops at random, or when the screen randomly freezes and then unfreezes. This is extremely annoying when it happens in boss fights, as it can lead to many unfair deaths. Unfortunately, the game only gets worse in performance the longer you play. I found that by the end of the game, it started to really struggle in the performance. Let's discuss the gameplay of Black Myth Wukong. Black Myth Wukong feels satisfying to play. The combat is fun, and running around, dodging, and attacking enemies is a blast. I did have some trouble getting used to the way the game does heavy attacks, however, once I got a hang of it, I had a much more pleasant time with the game. The game also has a ton of skill points to unlock, allowing you to become very powerful. The game also allows you to take your character into New Game Plus, allowing you to level up even more. You're also able to upgrade your armor that you collect along the way, however, weirdly you can only do this in New Game Plus. But the game is super replayable, and it's great for players who enjoy doing everything that they can in the games that they play. The abilities you get in the game are great to use. I had a blast learning and using each of the spells, my favorite being Shadow Step. With the ability, you create a clone of yourself for your enemy to attack, as you move in the shadows, popping out when you wish to attack the enemy. The game also does have armor unlocks and weapon unlocks, however, all the weapons you unlock only do more damage over learning new skills. Your main source of defense in this game is dodging. You do unlock a spell that allows you to block an attack, but the move itself uses a cooldown and uses mana, so you're unable to use it as much as you would like. You also can take the spirits of the enemies you're fighting and use them as attacks. This is a pretty cool system, and I can say I enjoyed hunting and using these enemy skills. I do have one major issue with the gameplay. The number of invisible walls this game uses is ridiculous. Almost everything has an invisible wall. Exploring in this game is kind of annoying because of it. I was getting stuck on so many rocks I shouldn't have been stuck on, or I should have been able to jump over, but an invisible wall was blocking my way. It's very hard not to run into invisible walls in this game. It's also very annoying in boss fights when you're running around the arena trying to dodge the attack and you run into an invisible wall taking damage. Making the boss arenas bigger and having less invisible walls would have helped serve this game greatly. Also, this game is very punishing when it comes to timing of dodges. You kind of have to be perfect, as many attacks have a 2-hit combo, meaning that if you don't dodge it correctly the first time, you're going to be punished both times. And it kind of makes it harder to deal with when the arenas are as small as they are. Overall, the gameplay is great, but I feel like it could have been more. I have some mixed feelings when it comes to Black Myth Wukong. Overall, I did have a fun time with this game, and I do want to recommend it, but the bad moments stood out like a sore thumb, the performance being its biggest offender, and the invisible walls being its second. It makes it hard for me to recommend it, but I do want to recommend it, as the game itself was great and was super fun to play through. If you can look aside the performance, there is a good game here. It has amazing moments, but a masterpiece this is not. So, with that being said, let's go over the score. For the graphics, the positives are the design of the world, design of the enemies, the animation in the cutscenes, set pieces look incredible. However, the cons are the smoke, fire, waterfall, and dust all look pretty bad. Overall, I'm giving the graphics section a 4 out of 5. Moving over to the sound, the positives is the music is very good and the ambiance is great. Also, the Chinese voice acting is also great. However, on the cons, the English voice acting isn't very good. I'm giving the sound a score out of 4 out of 5. Now let's move over to the story. Positives being the side characters are very interesting and lots of lore regarding the world and characters. However, the cons being the pacing of the story doesn't pick up until the midway point. Overall, I'm giving the story a 3 out of 5. For the performance, here are the positives. The game offers 3 modes: FPS, graphics, and balance. However, for the cons, it's the FPS drops that really annoyed me, mostly towards the end of the game, the screen randomly freezing also happening mostly towards the end of the game, and my game crashing 3 times and me falling through the map. Overall, for the performance, I have to give it a 2.5 out of 5. Let's get into the gameplay now. Positives being that there's a deep skill tree to get into, combat feels great and it's fun to run around, character progression is done really well, and the game is very replayable. However, on the cons, the invisible walls being all over the place are very annoying, and some of the boss arenas are definitely way too small. Overall, I'm giving the gameplay a score out of 4 out of 5. Bringing us to the final score for Black Myth Wukong, giving it a 3.5 out of 5. And that's the review. Thank you so much for watching. It means the world to me. Please, if you can, leave a like, a comment, and subscribe to the channel, as I will be doing more reviews like this and previews of upcoming games. So, I'll catch you next time. Take care.